Hello, sound check. Sound check, sound check.
Sound check. Sound check.
Okay, that sounds okay.
Sound check. Okay.
Hello, I'm trying a different camera setup today. This is kind of strange. I think I got it running though. Um, I've heard about the Nephilim. They're in Genesis, and supposedly, based on what I've heard so far, is that some angels came down and mated with the daughters of men, and they made giants. And then I guess those races have been blamed for some things. And I discovered today on the Ace Theo Show, early on the Ace Theo Show, that there is a document written by A. Enoch about these people, the Nephilim. And I'm curious what A. Enoch has to say about them. But I thought it would be really fun to do it live, do my reaction to it live. And I've put up a mirror down here so you can see my face, but also read the document along with me. And of course, over here is my little monitor where I'm keeping track. Oh, that's meta information. One of these days, I'll buy me a webcam and not rely on my phone for live broadcast. This is only a 7-page document. It's not going to take very long to read, but I am going to stop and talk about things if I feel inspired as I go. Because I've always been curious. I mean, people have blamed people in the Old Testament when they went and killed those babies in 1 Samuel 15. One of the theories is that, those were these Nephilim or descendants of Nephilim, and they were wicked automatically and needed to be killed, and they weren't really human. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, from my perspective right now, I haven't read this yet, God made angels and God made men, and God could have chosen to not make it so that the angels could impregnate the women. I mean, that was his choice up front, but if that's true, then he let that happen. So I wouldn't really blame the angels or the men for it. I would blame God for it. That's just my opinion, though. So I'm going to read this 7-page book and stop and make commentary as I go. This is a picture of me next to a Nephilim. As you can see, I took on vacation. All right, The Nephilim by A. Enoch. Oh, this is available for free at concordant.org. I'll put a link to that, and I will also put a link to the Ace Theo Show where they talked about it after I'm done and publish this. The Nephilim. I think this is from Genesis 6. Let's see. This must be page 1. That would be page 2. That would be page 4. We're missing a page, which is interesting. But we'll pick up here. Maybe that page said something that's a secret now. I think this is Genesis 1, verse 6. I don't know, though. It doesn't say. We're missing a page. Nothing I can do about it. Starting with page 2. The Nephilim. Verse, I don't know, maybe it's chapter 6. How embarrassing. Now it had occurred when humanity had started to increase on the surface of the ground, and the daughters had been born to them. The sons of Elohim saw the daughters of the human, that they were good looking, and so they took wives for themselves from any whom they chose. So far, yeah, that's what I remember. The angels up in heaven, they were like, woo, those chicks are hot. And then so they went down and I guess married them with an official minister or something. Then Yahweh said, my spirit shall abide in the human for the eon, in that he too is flesh. So his days will continue 120 years. As for the distinguished, they were on earth in those days and also afterwards. when the sons of Elohim were coming to the daughters of the human, and they bore them offspring. They were the masterful ones, who were from the eon mortals of renown. Yahweh say that the evil of humanity was multiplying on earth, and every form of the devising of its heart was surely evil all the day. Yahweh regretted that he had made humanity on earth. this is always, that verse just blows me away. I don't think God has regretted anything that God has ever done, because he already knew he was going to do it. So this is just some human expression, in my opinion. Yahweh regretted that he had made humanity on earth, and he grieved in his heart. So Yahweh said, I shall wipe out humanity that I have created off the surface of the ground, from human unto beast, unto the creeper, unto the flyer of the heavens. For I regret that I have made them. Yet Noah, he found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. Family rule. Expositors, don't know that word, I'll be honest, and students have found the first few verses of the 6th of Genesis exceedingly difficult to understand. Yes, I have. So apparently, yes, this is the first few verses of the 6th chapter of Genesis. Maybe I'll call them explorers. Explorers and students have found the first few verses of the 6th chapter of Genesis exceedingly difficult to understand. This arises partly from discordant versions. As far back as the Septuagint, I don't know that word either. As far back as a word I don't know, two words meaning distinguished and masters were both translated as giants. This has led to fallacious fables. The phrase son of God was taken to mean spirit beings, resulting in unnatural monstrosities. Even the earnest and reverent student, sincerely desiring to get the truth by careful attention to detail, may not be able to arrive at a satisfactory solution. To these, we commend a study of the structure of Genesis and a comparison of the complementary parts. Chapters 5, 1 through 5 is sons and daughters. 6 through 31 is the firstborn. 32, Noah begets a baby. And then chapter 6, 1 through 3, daughters and sons. Verses 4 through 7, distinguished. And verse 8, Noah finds grace. Note that in the first section, Genesis 5, 1 through 5, is concerned with Adam and his wife personally, their creation, lifetime, sons, and daughters. The corresponding section, Genesis 6, 1 through 3, should also be applied to Adam and his wife and their daughters and sons. The theme here concerns the subjection of the great multitude to which Adam and his wife had increased by the time he was 810 years old. Adam himself, as head of his great family, was the subjector of all. But when they became too numerous, he would naturally associate his firstborn sons with him as his assistants. So they were sons of Elohim, the subjectors, the Adams. In order to keep this function in the family, they married the daughters of these royal subjectors. Oh, it didn't say royal. My apologies. In order to keep this function in the family, they married the daughters of these subjectors. This custom has often been followed in royal houses in order to perpetuate their social superiority. I'm going to be honest, I don't understand a thing I'm reading right now, but I'm going to continue on. The name Adam may be used of one human alone, or of the first man and his wife, or of all humanity. When it is followed by a plural pronoun, they or them, it usually denotes all mankind. Yet it may be limited to the first man or his wife in the beginning. In 5:2, we read that he is calling their name Adam. The parallel passage, 6:1, may be rendered, the Adam had started to increase on the surface of the ground, and daughters had been born to them. Until we come to these sections, nothing is said of daughters, although it is self-evident that there were such. Or where would Cain and Seth have found their wives? They married their sisters. This was not as close a relationship as that between Adam and Eve, for she was largely a part of him. This method of marriage seems to have continued within the family of Adam and gave rise to an inner ruling class which took over after his death. The two subjectors. As it was in Israel later, the term Elohim, judges, was used of men before the deluge, Exodus 21:6 and Genesis 6:2 and 4. Adam, the head of humanity, had probably kept his large family in some order until they became so multulous that the firstborn sons were needed to help him rule them, even when he was still alive. These are sons of God, or Adam, like Elohim, and so also subjectors. These sons greatly strengthened their positions by marrying the daughters of Adam. For the closer the relationship to him, the better. They evidently sought to make a name for themselves, not for Yahweh. So they contributed to the ruin of the race before the deluge. These titles seem to show that there was family rule in those days, rather than an entire lack of control or anarchy is generally supposed. The fact that the title Elohim, I think, the fact that the title Elohim means subjector, and that Adam was made a subjector in his image, Genesis 2:27, should help us to understand the phrase sons of God, as it is usually rendered. If Adam was made a subjector, then his firstborn son was the son of a subjector. The word son denotes far more than child. In the case of Christ, who is also the son of Adam, it does not merely assert that he descended from him, but that he inherits his titles and the right to rule. And this has come to him through a long line of ancestors, the first of whom exercised these rights in antediluvian days. Since the change in the form of subjection in Noah's day, it has been in abeyance, but will be revived in Christ when he reigns over all humanity. The distinguished ones. This genealogy does not include all the male children of Adam and all theirs, for then every man would have been a subjector, and there would be no subjects. Then all would be distinguished, and mortals with a name. So this is restricted to the firstborn. Adam was the first and supreme subjector so long as he lived, or possibly until 120 years before. After that, Seth took over, and then his firstborn son, and the successive firstborn grandsons. The distinguished. According to the skeleton. What? According to the skeleton, Genesis 5, 6 through 31 balances Genesis 6, 4 through 7. That is, the line of Seth to Noah are the distinguished, whom were in those days. These were not physical giants or Nephilim, parentheses fallen, but the firstborn sons of each succeeding generation from Seth. Their names are given us: Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Malali, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah. The fact that there is a record of their names and the length of their lives should be enough to show that they really were distinguished. Their place as firstborn is a direct succession from Adam. Their place as firstborn as a direct succession from Adam was sufficient to give them a special place. They were successors to the Adamic dignities. They were also distinguished from the line of Cain. The special relationship these men had to the head of the race set them apart and secured to them the succession, distinguishing them from the rest, and made them the supreme subjectors of humanity when their own father died. They were the masters, and so distinguished from the rest that their names have been preserved and have come down to us in the annals of Adam. For they took over the position of subjector after his death. They alone channeled Adam's office of subjector to Adam's greater son, who inherited it through them. Luke 3:23. For us, indeed, they surely are distinguished, for they are our greatest fathers next to Adam. Every one of them is in our genealogy. They adorn our family tree. Their names occur twice in the Bible, not only in the book of beginning. That must be Genesis. But also in the genealogy of our Lord Jesus Christ. That alone should distinguish them. We did not come through any others of the word I don't know. Moreover, we were saved from the flood while in Noah, and came through it in the ark. Not only we, but all men today have been saved once already, while they were in him. The miracle is not that so many single kinds of creatures could be saved in the ark, but that all that have lived since and live today, including all mankind, were in the ark and were saved through the flood. Giants. The deluge was due to the evil of humanity on the earth, not to an intrusion of spirit beings, sometimes called angels or Nephilim or giants, etc., which produced a hybrid race. Mankind lived very much longer in those days than at present, So it may well be true that they were of extraordinary size and strength, for such men as Goliath lived in David's day. The name Nephilim comes from the same stem as used in Exodus 11:7. Yahweh is distinguishing between the Egyptians and Israel. This did not consist in size or race, for Egyptian as well as Israelites were of average stature. Family rule a failure. Adam and Eve were tested in the garden under ideal conditions and failed. Their family was tested on the cursed ground and failed. The line of Cain was in open opposition to the subjector. The line of Seth was headed by distinguished men who kept in touch with the supreme subjector. Indeed, Enoch walked with him and was taken away without being acquainted with death. Nevertheless, humanity as a whole became utterly, incurably evil. This is the first great lesson taught by the history of humanity. It has been recorded for future generations, but how seldom is it taken to heart? Paternalism, the natural and ideal form of government. Hi, say Tommy. Paternalism, the natural and ideal form of government, which will be most successful in the consummation when the subjector himself is at the head, was a dismal failure apart from his presence and power. Such is humanity. We must never judge the former eon by the present one, for now subjection is on an entirely different basis. At that time, there were no organized political government, no nations, no kings, no judges. When Cain shed the blood of Abel, his blood was not shed. On the contrary, he was given a sign. Oh, shame on Chris for the wrong he. I read that as when Cain shed the blood of Abel, Abel's blood was not shed, but no, wrong his. When Cain shed the blood of Abel, Cain's blood was not shed. On the contrary, he was given a sign so that he should not be killed. He was sentenced to wander on the cursed earth at a distance from Yahweh, Elohim. But there was no provision for the enforcement of this sentence, so he barricaded himself behind city walls. Lamech, at the end of his line, was even worse. He killed 2 men and threatened to kill more if he were held to account. Such a lax control filled the earth with violence. It teaches the great lesson that in subjection brings destruction and ruin on mortal men, and subjection to the subjector is the only way of safety and happiness. Wow. Okay, well, I don't understand any of this. I just don't understand any of it. But it's cool that A. Enoch wrote about it. I just want to know where page 2 went. Page 1, page 2, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8. 1, 2, 4. We're missing a page. All right, well, I don't know. I'm not very impressed with my work on this. I'm really curious about the Nephilim. I was told that, they were half angels. The angels came down and impregnated the women. But Enoch says that's not true, that it has to do with Adam's great-great-great-grandson wanting to marry someone higher up in Adam's hierarchy, so they could be more like a king. I don't know, man. All is of God. Bye.